I know that Ross wants to say a couple of things. I can see him kind of going at it. So just get in there, Ross, because I'm going to just talk. I'm going to take all the airtime.
You're listening to Rambling Realtors with Andrew Roach and Ross Bridges. Tune in each week for in-depth conversations on all the latest real estate trends and the thriving West End GTA markets. Go beyond the real estate world as Andrew and Ross share personal and professional experiences to help you find your way home.
Everyone, we're really blessed to have Bonnie Flemington here with us. In the words of Hippocrates, let food be thy medicine. We're going to have a nice chat today. We're kind of back to school, getting back into more of a routine. And we feel really fortunate that Bonnie's going to be able to have a chance to share with us. And we're just going to talk about health, right? So just a chance to kind of eat. So welcome, Bonnie, and thank you very much for joining Andrew and I on the Rambling Realtors.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited.
Yeah. So just to chime in there quickly, obviously generally a real estate show, but Ross and I have gone off on many a tangent, hence Rambling Realtors, and completely unrelated to real estate type topics. So we both have an interest in health in general health, of course, from just having a nice livelihood to performing athletically or from a business perspective as well, right? Just kind of being on your game and not feeling sluggish and keeping your mojo going, right? Wanting to get up in the morning and do something. We've all had those days where you get up and you're like, I don't feel like doing a thing, right? And you're like, I've got some stuff to do today, but I'm just gonna watch TV. I'm gonna eat a bag of chips. I'm gonna eat some. I'm gonna have some ice cream and just sit in bed, and that's gonna be my day. And so when you and I kind of chatted over email briefly, one of the things that you said that kind of really stuck with me was, having a diet, if you will, daily nutrition kind of thing that keeps you energized, so that you're not like always looking for those double espressos to get going or those energy drinks to kind of just have, like, oh, I got to power through the afternoon here. Let me drink this. And all of a sudden you're crazy. Or I've shared with Ross in the past, I was a heavy coffee drinker, and not because I was like, I need to keep going, but I just love the stuff. But I would drink easily 5 extra large coffees a day when I was in my 20s, every day. I drink a pot of coffee on a Saturday. And then as I got older, I found espressos and macchiatos and cappuccinos and all that kind of stuff. And those are just amazing. And so I started drinking more of those. And they were so good that I would have 2, 3, 4, 5 before lunch, right?
Oh.
And then I started having a lot of anxiety attacks, and just randomly, just like, what the heck? Why am I just all of a sudden freaking out? That happened for years and years and years and years. And you go to the internet as a source. So like, you ask your questions in, whatever. I kept hearing like stress, right? Stress is, it's stress. And I'm like, I'm not stressed though. I don't really have like this big stress. Okay. Sure. I've got young kids and all that kind of stuff, but I don't feel stressed. I don't have worry all the time. I don't wake up in the middle of the night worrying about a specific topic. So why am I going through this? Inevitably, I stumbled across caffeine, and I'm like, well, I drink a lot of caffeine. So started diving deeper into that, and ultimately thought, okay, I'm going to cut coffee out. And 30 days later, it's not like I was having an anxiety attack every day, but when I cut coffee out, caffeine, right? I even went to green tea, and actually I flipped right into lemon and honey in the morning, because I like something hot in the morning, right? Yeah. So lemon and honey water, that's what I went to first. And then I started to introduce green tea or no caffeine-free tea and all that kind of stuff. But that was like, that was the last anxiety attack I ever had.
Amazing.
Right. So
yeah, absolutely. It's connected.
Yeah. So I digress. When you said, keep staying energized. Those sluggish days, they suck.
Yeah. So you're off the caffeine now?
No, I'm back on it, but modestly, right? Very, right? Like, I'll have a coffee. I drink Earl Grey tea in the morning, right? So one tea. I drink a little bit of Starbucks. I kind of love this stuff. So, I'll have a Starbucks in the morning sometimes. But it was hardcore moderation, right? That's really what it was, right? And I also know that I can't have caffeine, or especially a coffee. I can have a tea. Tea doesn't really bother me so much, but a coffee after 12 at noon.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, I'll be physically tired, but my mind is like, and I can't fall asleep at night.
Right. Well, I got a ton to say about caffeine.
All right. Well,
it's pretty interesting. So there's a lot of interesting things about caffeine. One is that we are all a little bit different. You might see a headline saying that caffeine's good for you, and then you see a different headline saying caffeine's bad for you, and then everybody's confused, right? So it depends on the person. There are fast caffeine metabolizers and slow caffeine metabolizers. And those who metabolize the caffeine quickly can actually benefit from some of the antioxidants in coffee. I still don't recommend more than, say, 1 in the morning. But for those people that are slow caffeine metabolizers, they're going to have a lot more trouble. They're going to get anxiety for some, higher risk of cardiovascular issues, and obviously disrupted sleep. And it can really exacerbate disrupted cortisol. So you talked about stress. That is something that you've read about as it relates to anxiety. It also is connected to caffeine too. If you've already got a heightened stress response, your cortisol levels are out of whack, then caffeine can make a lot of that worse. So a lot of different things going on with caffeine. So it's pretty individualized. And I don't want to say you can't ever have any. Green tea is amazing, as it's about half the caffeine. It's a great stepping stone too, if you're trying to reduce. I did have a client once who we talked about reducing caffeine, and I said, just, if you go cold turkey, you're going to get some of those withdrawal symptoms. You're going to have headaches. And she actually insisted that she wanted to try cold turkey. I warned her. She said it was about 2 weeks before she felt better, but now she's ultimately, the symptoms we were working on, of course, are resolved. She's so much happier. So I do warn people, and titrating down a little bit is probably the better way to go if you are the 5 cup of coffee a day person. Start making some of them a green tea, reduce it by 1 or 2 cups. I love the taste of a warm beverage in the morning too. So I tend to drink a decaf as an example. I don't usually drink coffee at all. Green tea sometimes. I love herbal teas, which of course are caffeine free. So I love warm beverages too. So I get you.
Yeah, all good things that I tried, and I mean, ultimately worked for me, and I think that was just a little bit of troubleshooting, but it's nice. I mean, obviously I know that it worked for me. So every now and again you'll have someone that is an outlier, right? Okay, it worked for you, but that's not the norm. It won't work for everybody. So it's good for anybody else listening that might be in the same situation as me. I've had, some Facebook friends, post something about anxiety, and I just, this is my story, right? Try it for you. What do you guys like? And like you said, and I wasn't aware of that, but you said, some are fast metabolizers and some are slow metabolizers. Maybe I used to be a fast metabolizer and now I'm not anymore because I overdid it, right? They might be in a different situation, which I wasn't aware of. They're like, no, I don't drink a lot of coffee, but to your point, maybe they're a slow metabolizer and they're experiencing the same effects just at a lower rate, kind of thing, right?
Yep, absolutely. Totally. One of some of the better ways to optimize your energy. So if you're looking to some of these pick-me-ups, like a caffeine beverage of some kind, then we want to look back at, let's set ourselves up so we don't need those. So some of the main things I see one thing is actually getting enough protein early in the day. Managing your blood sugar well. I know we often think of blood sugar as kind of you only need to worry about it if you're diabetic or something, but we all need to focus on blood sugar management. And there's different ways you can approach it. Diet is number one, huge. And if you can get some things that slow the release of that glucose into your system throughout the day so that you have even energy, that's going to optimize how you feel all day. And getting a little more protein at breakfast is something I recommend, because it's one of the meals of the day that often people are super sort of high sugar, high refined carbs. You know, our typical North American bagel or muffin or cereal is something that we all grew up with.
Yeah.
And we don't realize that that's setting us on a blood sugar roller coaster that's spiking and crashing our blood sugar, creating the fatigue, the cravings, the need for pick-me-ups. So we're sort of setting ourselves up early in the day, and we can change that pretty easily.
Yeah, I know that Ross wants to say a couple of things. I can see him kind of going at it. So just get in there, Ross, because I'm going to take all the airtime.
No, I think it's great that you two are kind of building a relationship. And I've already had the pleasure of talking with you, but both obviously. So as Canadians, we love our coffee. And I think of myself when I was younger, kind of what you were describing, Andrew, like you're going on your way to work, you're going through your drive-through through Tim Hortons. I'm having an orange pico tea. I've kind of eliminated coffee from my diet. I still do go to Starbucks maybe once or twice a month, or maybe a little bit more, but I'll have like an orange matcha. Working on almond milk unsweetened. Thanks, Bonnie. That was a great tip. But like for as men, there's been a big campaign, don't change much, right? And I think like gut health. So Bonnie, I got a question for you. So let's just go back, because there's a lot of people that are here that are very strong about their coffee. They love their coffee. Yeah. And as Canadians, it's part of our culture. I know that a lot of the beans are overcooked and they basically will cause them to go acidic, right? We can talk about our pH scales, but I want to talk about gut health. Yeah. And where my question goes is when we're adding protein in the morning, whether we're having our delicious smoothie, but then we're having a coffee, is that basically canceling out our good gut health and our nutrients that we're trying to put in our body first thing in the morning?
Well, caffeine can definitely create some like faster gastric emptying. So things might pass through you faster, and then you don't have the opportunity to absorb all those great nutrients. So if you're going to go to the trouble of creating a smoothie that has lots of veggies in there, some say lower sugar fruits, a protein powder, you want to be able to absorb all the nutrients from that. So it is possible that the caffeine can be causing that to pass through you much more quickly and too quickly to really benefit from them. So that's one thing. I'm not going to say it's going to cancel anything out, but gut health is huge, because you can eat all the smoothies and salads and veggies that you want. If you're not absorbing the nutrients in it, it's not doing you the kind of good that you want it to be doing so that you feel great. And that can exacerbate cravings and fatigue, because what your body's craving is those nutrients. If you're not absorbing them due to low digestive function, then that's really where you want to focus on, because you're already doing all the right things with your diet. So now we need to focus on gut health so you can get the benefits of those great foods.
So when your body's craving sugars, like a natural solution would be to have like fruits, right? And when your body's craving salts, would you recommend like more protein? Like you as a dietitian, so Andrew and I, it's a Sunday afternoon, we got a hankering for some candy and a big bag of chips. What would be some healthy alternatives for anybody listening out there? If they're looking to just make some slight changes.
Yeah, that's a great idea. One thing to do to back up a little bit is to think about, well, why am I experiencing these cravings to begin with? So sugar cravings is often due to a gut microbiome imbalance. If it's a real physical sugar craving, there's also, of course, the emotional piece as well. Emotional craving, maybe you're looking for the dopamine hit from the sugar. And so you have to look a little bit about, whether that's actually helping resolve your issue. So if it's an emotional craving, you might look back at, what's the feeling that I'm getting, like whether you're stressed or bored or whatever that feeling is that immediately triggers you to crave the particular food. And is there something else I can do instead? So sometimes it's something else. Sometimes it's actually a physical craving. So we need to work, say, on the gut health so that because the bad, I'm going to say bad bacteria in your gut are the ones that can crave that sugar. And if we can create a better balance in there, then perhaps those cravings won't be as strong. The second, you mentioned chips, as well as the sugar. Those often come from, say, a salt craving. And sometimes excess stress can create a water imbalance in the body, and you crave salt to kind of create more balance on that respect. So again, you may start to address the stress. If you're craving salt all the time, it may be an adrenal cortisol issue that you want to address, so that then you address the salt cravings there. So sometimes backing up and figuring out, why am I getting these cravings to begin with, is the best place to start. But then, of course, sometimes that takes a little time. So while you're figuring that out, then yes, we want some other options. So whether it's having those, say, I don't want to be a kind of a broken record on the veggie thing, but if you have those things already ready and washed up in the fridge, with some dip that you like, then veggies and dip becomes a decent option. If you open your fridge and all of your veggies are still in their original packaging in the crisper, that doesn't even look like a food option, because it just looks like work. You got to prep that. But if it's already prepped and in like containers right at eye level, that becomes a more decent option. So, and you can vary up the dips and make it super fun. It doesn't have to be hummus the way most people think of veggies with hummus. It can be guacamole, it can be pesto, you could have an olive tapenade. Like, there's so many different dips that you can keep it fun. Other things, more filling, if you're really looking to feel satiated, then maybe some more protein in your snack is going to be better. So perhaps hard-boiled eggs. And this is something that you could do on the weekend. Just boil up, a dozen eggs. You can even pre-peel them on the weekend, have them in a container right at eye level. And now that's a quick grab and go snack. Nuts and seeds are great options too. And that'll have a lot more protein, healthy fat. That's going to help you feel full for a while and keep you going.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was recently listening to a book called The Case Against Sugar.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. You think back to like even going back in time to when sugar originally was brought in, and then England was using it for the production of chocolate, and just how much money was made back. But where I'm kind of going with this is, it is almost like the initial gateway drug into everything else. You think about like your first birthday, and you're getting this big cake in front of you,
Yes.
and you see like this child light up like a freaking Christmas tree when it's taking the icing or that first bite of cake. And obviously like the insulin, like everything that it's causing, but there's a lot in terms of what you were talking about with dopamine and the relation with our brains with sugar. So kind of like your thoughts on, obviously we need to be not eliminating, but really cutting down on our sugar intake as a society.
Absolutely. It starts so young. And if you think about it, you fall and scrape your knee, and the first thing someone does is hand you a lollipop and says, here, this will make it better. And you'll stop crying. But here it is. Now you have this association with sugar is going to make it better. Or celebrations, like you said, with the birthday cake, or, a big sugar thing. So often a lot of our tastes are developed really early on in our life, in the first few years, actually. That's not to say you can't change them, because you absolutely can. I can give you an example of my own, but what you can really do is, for those people who have families with young kids, really do them a favor. And I'm not saying disallow any sugar, but really ratchet it back, and just know they're getting it pretty much everywhere. Easter's coming, or Halloween, or Christmas. There's all these celebrations. They're getting plenty. You don't necessarily want to disallow that, but on a regular basis, day to day, you want to really ratchet that back, because you're actually going to make life a lot easier for your kids long term, because they won't have developed the taste for it so much. When I started getting heavy into nutrition, my kids were a little bit older, and they were, they weren't old, but they'd had a taste for sugar already. And so I had to kind of ratchet it back a little slowly by sort of forgetting to buy certain things at the grocery store for a while. And so we slowly worked our cupboard to having less and less of this kind of thing in it. And eventually, but I wouldn't disallow it. There was sort of no judgment. They went to a birthday party. They could eat all the cake they wanted at someone else's party. And one example is pretty interesting to me, after they hadn't really been having a whole lot of sugar in our house, is one of my kids had been at a party and came back and said, "Oh, I feel terrible." Really felt the effects of the sugar and the cake and pizza that they've just had. And really so it allowed them to make the connections, because I could talk until I was blue in the face about it, but until they experienced it for themselves, it wasn't going to be as meaningful. So that's the kind of thing you want to do for your family and for your kids, is, keep it really low in your own home, but don't disallow it completely. They can go out and do what they want. And I always said that to my kids, no judgment. I don't want to be the enabler though. So I'm not bringing it into the home. I don't want to be the enabler, but there's no judgment. You can do what you want when you want and decide. And they could ride their bike and go grab what they wanted at the store and come back. And I found over time, they just chose not to, because they started to make those connections to how it was making them feel.
One last thing I'm thinking of here is like we were so back to school, right? It's now the end of September, and like the correlation with sugar and like your concentration or you crash. Yeah. So, when you're having all this insulin, all the sugar induced, forget about the health. Yeah. That's going to kind of spur off your ADD. It's going to allow people not to really focus as much. Maybe you could kind of talk about that for a minute in terms of like how it's going to help people to stay a lot more constant and be able to focus more when they're learning, especially when you're doing things like Zoom, right? You're doing things where you're like, maybe you're a university student or you're in grade 4, but it's still, I know Andrew's got that, and he can probably touch on that with one of his kids, where the whole concentration is difficult because he's got a lot of energy and he's always ready to be on the move.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether you're a young kid at school, a high schooler, a university student, or a parent, adult, blood sugar, as I was saying earlier at the beginning of our conversation, blood sugar management is key, because if you eat that sugar food, or even just a refined starch, like a flour food, like, bread or bagel, it doesn't have to taste sweet, but whether it's sugar or flour, the refined nature of it means it's going to get absorbed super quick into your system, because all the processing's been pre-done for us. Our bodies don't need to do much, and it gets absorbed. So now our blood sugar spikes. That creates the jitters. It creates the anxiety, trouble focusing. Might trigger some of those ADHD responses, especially if you're already struggling with that. That's just going to exacerbate that. And then you end up with the crash, and that's where you're going to get the fatigue and the cravings and the lethargy. And then you're going to crave more of it. So now you pop a snack in your mouth of some kind and you're back up on the roller coaster again. So your whole day starts to look like that. So that's why I mentioned trying to get something really balanced in the macronutrients and have some healthy fats and some protein early in the day, so you don't even step on that roller coaster to begin with. Yeah.
I'm going to chime in here. You've talked enough for us. Actually, no, but Ross, I'm glad that you did bring up the sugar thing, because that's actually what I was going to bring up as well. Yeah, a huge issue in our society, like Ross had mentioned. I think every parent's struggle all the time. It's like again, well, like Ross said, it's everywhere. Yeah. It is in everything. I find it difficult to get away from it. And to your point, Bonnie, about it being introduced at a very early age, and our kids are like, okay, this is what I like now, and your taste buds have kind of been designed to be receptive to that. I know that you had said you can change, what tastes good and what doesn't. And going back to my coffee story, same thing, right? After 30 days, I'm like, hey, I'm going to try a coffee. I feel good now. And it wasn't the same, at all. I was always like, actually, I don't even really like just coffee anymore the way that I used to like coffee. Right now I'm into the espressos and all that kind of stuff, macchiatos and cappuccinos. But I guess I digress. My point is that for kids, right? For us, for anyone that's listening, that's like, hey, listen, I would like to get away from this stuff. I liken it to to working out. You're looking to see that physical change in the mirror when you've been working out for so long. Again, everybody's probably different. Some people say, for me, I know that I have to work out for about probably 40 days before I'm actually seeing something in the mirror. Some people that might be 60 days. It might be 75 days. It might be 90 days before they're really seeing something. If we go back to kind of like, reconditioning our taste buds, reconditioning our gut, you talked about, again, that's going to be a huge topic. You could get really deep into that. How long would you say it would take, just for, I guess, on average, maybe kids are less because they're younger. I'm not sure. Maybe, the older you are, the deeper your roots are, et cetera. Right. For someone to say, okay, listen, I'm going to start making a change. Maybe you don't want to go cold turkey kind of thing. And maybe you want to kind of make it progressive, but to really try to get away from that addiction that we have to sugar, because like I said, it's everywhere. And of course, Ross touched on it with, early ages. There's a lot of money to be made. It's in sugar because that's what we go for. It's our addiction, right? So that's what sells.
Yes, absolutely. It is, as you said, it is going to vary for everyone. But and for adults, it's probably going to be more intentional. Maybe for kids, it's going to be more their parents or orchestrating that. But I have seen people make a change, and within a week they've noticed a big difference. Not just how they feel, but very specific symptoms they were struggling with really have diminished, and that's pretty quick. Now, in terms of long-term taste bud change and what you really desire, that can probably take a little bit longer. So, an example being, I used to drink coffee with sugar in it. And I decided one day I wasn't going to do that anymore. The sugar's bad. I'm going to give it up. So I'll just drink my coffee without sugar. And the first days of that, the coffee tasted terrible. I just didn't like it one bit. But I was very determined. So I thought, I'm just going to keep drinking this without sugar. And then I get to a point where now I accidentally took a sip of my husband's coffee that had sugar in it, and it tasted horrible. I really got to the point where I really preferred it without sugar. A second example of my own is I used to taste dark chocolate, say 70%, and think it tasted like dirt. Like, that is not good at all. And now my taste buds have changed so much because I've reduced sugar in all areas of my life, not just the actual sweets, but I also don't have a lot of crackers, breads, pasta. So I don't have a lot of flour. So there's not a lot of this glucose spiking happening in my system. So now I taste the dark chocolate, and 70% is super sweet. I actually enjoy more like 90 at this point. Okay. But whereas a while back, I thought 70 tasted like dirt. So those are just a few examples of my own where that's a pretty significant change, but that takes a little bit longer. But you can definitely start feeling better in your body pretty quickly when you make intentional change.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest issues, so we've got 3 kids. They're youngish, I guess, 9, 11, and 12. Yeah. Lunch, making lunches, busy lifestyles, dinner, the go-to pastas, super simple, super quick, all that kind of stuff, right? The struggle in our household, and I think a lot of our clients' households are in a similar situation, young families, is you go for the stuff that is kind of quick and easy because you've got so much on your plate. Yeah. I've heard endless times, and we actually did it for a while, did the whole meal prep and all that kind of stuff. But like, in fairness, and I don't want to be like, I don't want to do the work, but I don't want to do the work, is it's a 4-hour afternoon. Yeah. Right. To meal prep for the week. Right. Yeah. Do you have any magic pill, a little secret sauce, a little fairy dust to kind of just make everything nice and easy and healthy? There's gotta be some stuff out there that maybe we're overlooking, or just some tricks that have been developed over the years from people saying, okay, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah, that's a great question. And some people love the meal plan thing and they do it on the weekends and it's all done. And that really helps them during the week. And to a certain extent, planning out at the very least in your head, what's going to happen each night during the week in terms of what you've got available in your fridge and making sure you have it is going to be really important, that you actually have the foods, because you definitely don't want to come up on a Tuesday night and have to go to the grocery store. Yeah. So definitely you want to at least have the foods. You don't necessarily have to have them prepped in advance, but creating some new routines around what's quick. So we grow up often thinking, especially say through university or something, throw on a pot of pasta, that's going to be, and throw some tomato sauce on top of that and you're good. And it's cheap. And that's definitely how I ate when I was in university. But you can create some new routines around what's quick. And so some of the things that I make that are quick, that I don't really need to prep in advance, I just have to make sure I have the actual food, is a lot of one pan meals. So yeah, I have my fridge full of veggies and some say chicken breasts, or even just chicken, you can cut them. They don't have to be full breasts, but it's pretty easy to grab everything out of there. Quick wash, quick chop them up, a little oil, salt, and pepper on a sheet in the oven. Same with the chicken as an example, or a fish is actually even quicker than chicken. It's super quick. It can take 5 to 10 minutes to pan fry a little fish while you've got a bunch of veggies on sheet pans in the oven. So that's stuff that to me now, that's a quick and easy. It basically takes the same amount of time as pasta. Yeah. But that's routine for me now. So that's easy. It's something that's on my brain. I've done it lots of times. I know what I'm doing. I kind of don't have to think about it. So you have to do it a few times. So there's no magic pill exactly, but once you do a certain routine enough, it becomes as easy as pasta. Of course, you can do chilies and things like that. That's also pretty easy. I like the one pot stuff. The Instant Pot's great. If you've got one, which is a pressure cooker, you can throw a ton of veggies and some meats in there, a little sauce or broth, and turn it on. And now you can go do other stuff in your house and you come back in 20 minutes and it's ready. So there are some things that can take, that could be as quick as say something like pasta or throwing a, frozen pizza in the oven. But it's better and it starts to work much more easily and come more naturally when you've done it a few times. So you do have to get over that hump of a new routine, but once it's your routine, it's super easy.
And I think another issue with that respect is the variety, right? Like when you're, if you say, okay, you're going to have pasta one night, you're going to have a frozen pizza another night, you're going to have, I don't know, stuff that's kind of quick and easy, but it tastes very different and it has that variety, right? My issue personally is that if I have like 2 healthy meals that I like or go to or something like that, then it's like you're kind of eating the same thing over and over and over again. And that's when I fall off the wagon. That's when I crave the variety and try something else. And like, well, let's have a pizza tonight.
Okay, well, I'm actually going to challenge you on that because what the format I'm talking about can have the same amount of variety. And actually what you're talking about, when you hear what I have to say about it, you'll realize that it's really not any variety. So like, for instance, I'm talking about the sheet pan thing.
Sure.
If you could do sheet pan like every night and you've got one night that's fish, one night that's chicken, you got meat one night, you can do pork one night, some other type of sausage one night, and you got different meats every night. You can do different veggies every night. So now you've got entirely different foods every single night. If you do a pasta one night, you're eating wheat. You do pizza, it's made of wheat. You do a lasagna, that's wheat. So now you've eaten the same food every night and you're thinking it's variety, but it actually isn't. You're eating the exact same food every night in just slightly different shapes and forms. And that is actually, in my opinion, what creates a lot of problems with wheat with people is because they're eating it so frequently. It's the frequency that they're eating the food wheat that I think a lot of people sometimes are skeptical about whether gluten's a really a big problem. But I think that as a society, we've created the problem by having wheat in our cereal in the morning, and in our bread, in our sandwich at lunch, and on our crackers and cheese at snack, and in our pizza at dinner. So nobody would eat carrots for breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner every day all year, but people would certainly eat cereal, sandwich, crackers, and
Because it
pizza
gives you that
every day
punch
all
of
year.
sugar. It gives you that sugar punch that makes you feel good.
So anyway, so that's why I challenge you on that.
No, fair
it's actually
point.
the same food. Yeah.
Yeah, no, fair point. You know, wrapped up in a different bow, and it
Yeah,
is
exactly.
different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I gotta do a plug here, guys. This plug is actually for you, Bonnie. Me and my girlfriend, just a couple days ago, we made this beautiful beef fajita lettuce wraps.
Yep.
And they were absolutely amazing. And Bonnie sends out a weekly meal plan with all these super cool recipes. And it's something that's very easy. It gives you kind of plans, gives you all the things that you need to go out and buy.
Yep.
And then, you know, so for you looking for a little variety, a little spice of life, you know, and when we talk about wheat and bread, I've been using a crock pot a little bit more. That's been really, really helping me. But I would strongly recommend, and Andrew and I are gonna share an opportunity for you guys to connect with Bonnie. And as families, as individuals, whether you're single or you're a family, who wouldn't want an amazing meal plan and all the variety of life in terms of foods that Bonnie's already prepared for you, which takes a lot of it out of the equation, because then all you got to do, you don't have to think about it. You can just say, hey, honey, or hey, what would you like to have on this list? And let's be prepared for the week. So thank you, Bonnie. I'm really enjoying receiving all of your recipes.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you've made them. And yeah, the whole idea is that you don't need to slave in the kitchen. I really am not in favor of that myself. I don't do it myself. I'm pretty much whatever's quickest. And that's why I talked about the sheet pan ideas, because to me, that's like throw it together. It's in the oven and it's done. So that's how I create my meal plans too, because I don't like to spend hours in the kitchen. I don't expect anyone else to either.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, just in the interest of time, hopefully you're still good for a little bit longer. Maybe one last topic, unless you got something else, Ross.
No. This is where I want to be right now. So.
Yeah, cool. Was again something else you said in your email, or actually I was reading your website. I apologize.
Okay.
Inflammation, right? An ongoing, you know, the aches and pains that we just deal with on a regular basis. It's just part of life now. And whether it's joints, you know, just your back, you've constantly got a headache, whatever. Our body is telling us something, but we don't know how to identify it or fix it. And I think that a lot of the times it is, and I'm going to go back to nutrition, which is the whole reason why we're here, is just kind of like what we eat and or what we aren't eating. Yeah. So maybe let's, if possible, touch on two things. And I'm gonna hazard a guess that sugar is going to be one of them. Yes. And then what we can eat to help prevent it, to bring that inflammation down.
Absolutely. I mean, inflammation is something that's hard to recognize. It kind of creeps up slowly. It's actually part of an acute injury. I mean, you get inflammation and it's part of the healing process. It's that chronic inflammation that is silent, that we don't realize is there. Some of the signs we have it. It's not just something you might be able to see and feel in your joints, but it can be sinus issues, digestive issues, fatigue, brain fog, headaches, like you were mentioning. Those are some things that can give us a hint that we're suffering with excess inflammation. So the biggest drivers, yes, sugar is on the list, the sugar, flour, but also inflammatory fats, so processed meats, things like your the hot dogs and things like that. So I'm not against eating meat, but you want to have it from a clean, good source and not processed. Inflammatory fats as well. So, you know, the deep fried foods, the deep fried sort of donuts and things which come with sugar as well, but the inflammatory fats as well. But what can you eat? Obviously lots. You want to focus. One thing that a lot of people miss, and it's pretty easy, is hydration. having enough water. It's one of the common things I see. And sometimes for many people, this is a great place to start because it doesn't seem intimidating to try and drink more water, because it doesn't involve trying to change a lot of habits. You just need to get into a routine of, okay, I'm going to have 2 cups before breakfast, 2 before lunch, 2 before dinner. And that can be a great place to start, being well hydrated. Obviously, you want to up your veggies generally, get enough protein. Great sources also for snacks, nuts and seeds. And then some other things like including, say, turmeric in some of your dishes. Maybe you like curries. Turmeric is really anti-inflammatory. Ginger, having a lot of those cruciferous vegetables are great for liver detox. So that's like broccoli, kale, cauliflower, things like that. And ginger, I think I mentioned ginger, really, really great anti-inflammatory. You could have it as a tea, as an example.
So, and when you get into, so obviously all those, like, what not to eat, great, what to eat, great. When you get into things like the turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, I believe is also an anti-inflammatory, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
How much of that do you need? Like, so for me, I have I've got a juicer here, so I try to, juice some vegetables, etc., every day if I can. I did do a little bit of a juice cleanse a couple of years ago, but I would just add in, I'm sorry, I apologize. And my wife also, she works out religiously every day, comes out of the gym and has her protein shake, right? And she adds a bunch of stuff in there. So we'll do like, not measured by any stretch of imagination, but maybe like a half a teaspoon of turmeric in it, and ground ginger and cinnamon, and it kind of blends. So it's not like you're eating a spoonful of turmeric or a spoonful of ginger, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of add it in there as a very, very mild flavor, but it's still was that are we going on the right path, or are we doing it wrong?
No, I love that. That's a great way to include some of these foods, because it can add some little flavor, a little zing to your smoothie. Maybe you add something different each day. So again, that gives you your variety. So, one day it's a ginger and another day it's more of a turmeric, and then another, a cinnamon one the third day. So you don't have to add them all every day. You can vary it up. And generally speaking, if you're already suffering with some significant symptoms that you want to work on, then you probably need a little bit more of those things. And sometimes a supplement can really help. But if this is preventative, then definitely you can be adding these to your foods, and that can be plenty. And there's lots of research around turmeric in the quantities that you would eat in your diet, as opposed to supplements, which are a lot more. And there's many benefits there. So especially if it's preventative, then just adding it into your cooking or into your smoothies is a great place to start. I'd add a little bit of black pepper when you're doing the turmeric, so it boosts the absorption.
Yeah, I did read that, and we actually do that. Yeah, just do a small shake of the black pepper. Do that. That's cool. I find that really interesting how different foods trigger or pull out or complement each other, if you will, like from a health perspective, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing. Food is medicine.
Absolutely.
Talking a little bit more about water here, I'm going to do another plug for Pure Water for You. They're a local company. I can go and get my own water. It's reverse osmosis. It's alkalinized. Good. And I'll go and see them, and I've been doing that for years, and it's been really, really great for obviously helping my body. I add a little bit of apple cider vinegar with some lemon juice. I've currently started adding a little bit of cherry juice to it as well too, just give it a little bit more flavor. Where I'm kind of going with this, and I also wanted to talk about adding maybe Himalayan salt to your water as well too. We talked a little bit about salt, Bonnie.
Yes.
In terms of the hydration and then the alkalinization of our bodies, because and I mean this again, hopefully we can get you back, because I think Andrew and I are getting all of our wheels in motion here. We want to just keep talking about this for probably another hour. But in terms of our pH scale, right? Yeah. Our pH scale as humans, we are incredibly acidic. We start our morning with our coffee, and a lot of us end our day with maybe a glass of wine or scotch, right? So we're really hurting our bodies from beginning to end throw a steak dinner in there and some other things along the way. But let's just talk a little bit about alkalinizing our bodies and being on a good pH scale.
Absolutely. So you mentioned adding a little bit of sea salt to your water, and that can be great, especially if you are using a reverse osmosis water that you want to remineralize it, because reverse osmosis is amazing for taking out all the bad stuff, but it does take out all the minerals. So you want to remineralize what you want to actually add back in. So some systems do both. So it cleans everything out, and then it actually also remineralizes as part of the system. But if you don't have one that does that, you may want to be adding a little sea salt because it's got a variety of minerals. And I also don't want to talk about salt as being all bad, because we actually need a certain amount of salt. It's the excess that comes from a lot of the processed foods, packaged goods, and you just have to look on the label and you look at sodium and see what percentage of the daily value of your salt intake it is to realize that's really where a lot of the negative effects from salt is coming from. It's those types of foods. It's typically not the bit that you're adding at the table. So the whole our cellular pump that allows things to go in and out of our cells is that sodium potassium pump. It needs to work well. And it's actually, you can get too low in salt, especially if you're exercising, you're sweating a lot, for instance, you need to add back those salts. So that's really important.
On that note there about like pH and all that kind of stuff, one of the issues that I have had is that, just overall health, diet, gut, all that kind of stuff. It's such a massive, massive world, and it's so easy to get overwhelmed. So you start, you're like, okay, I found something, I'm going to cut out some sugar, or I'm going to have some healthy foods, etc. And then it's a bit of a rabbit hole. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I haven't been doing this. I haven't been doing that, blah, blah, blah. I might as well give up. I'm going to eat a bag of licorice.
Right.
Is there a way, an easy way to, to measure, like, where your pH levels are on a regular basis? Or like, how do you know if I'm like, okay, I think I feel good. Am I getting better? Am I getting worse? Is this working? Sidebar here, collagen, this is supposed to be something that's wonderful. My wife's been like trying collagen powder in her smoothies for in her protein shakes for, I don't know, 2 months. She's like, this stuff doesn't work. It's just a scam. Right? It's like, how do you know what you're doing is actually working? Is there a metric somewhere? Is there a way to kind of check in a score that you can get?
Like insulin tests or things we can do to,
you know what I mean?
I mean, other than taking a pee on like a Liptus strip, is there something we can do that, like, I think like with things like Whoop and all these great tools that we have, you could even talk a little bit about your Whoop 4.0. It's new, check it out. But like even Bonnie, do a plug for your app and talk about maybe there's things that we can do for taking advantage of technology and testing our levels.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, and maybe what we could also do for blood work. I think it would be pretty cool if we all did blood work a couple times a year. And what better gift than the gift of health to go and check in on all your levels? Maybe you could suggest a bunch of different things we could have tested for our blood levels.
So there's a lot there that you guys all just mentioned. So
another episode?
No, not necessarily. There actually is. There are test strips you can get at health food stores if you do want to test the pH of your urine. You absolutely could do that. It'll change throughout the day. Like first morning urine is going to be more acidic because all night long your body has been collecting things from your waste products from your cells, and then that's being eliminated first thing in the morning. So that's going to be naturally more acidic. And having certain parts of your body more acidic is important. For instance, you need acidity in your stomach to break down your food. So you do need acid in the right place at the right time in your body. But generally speaking, a more alkaline environment in your body is going to come from eating whole foods, fruits and vegetables, smaller quantities, but you want some lean meats. You don't need to eat zero alkaline foods. You actually want to balance. If you ever look at those pH charts of what different foods have what pH, you don't need to eat 100% of your foods on the alkaline side. You actually want a balance of about 70-30 or 80-20 or so. So you do want to have some of the nuts and meats on the more acidic side, but you want to have a lot of, say, vegetables and fresh fruits from the alkaline side too, to balance it out. In terms of testing, you could definitely have your regular blood work done with your family doctor and making sure your levels are good. But also note that sometimes the lab ranges, the optimal ranges can be a little different than lab ranges. So your doctor may come back to you and say, hey, everything looks good, it's totally fine. But perhaps you're at one end of what they'll call normal, and that's not really optimal.
There you go, right? You're getting into the, it all depends, which can, and I understand, I can appreciate it, because I know there's never just one straight answer for everybody, but that's the element that can be overwhelming, which of course makes us be like, hey, let me book a private one-on-one with Bonnie here to figure out my, what works best for me in my situation, et cetera. So
I do. I do help people review their blood work that they've had done with their family doctor. And obviously I personalize a lot of it. And I run a group program for those that want to do something in more of a group format as well. So one-on-one or group, or as Ross was saying, the meal plan, weekly meal plans as well.
Yeah. And the weekly meal plans, just like a subscription kind of based thing where you just get once every weekend, or every Monday or Tuesday or Friday, who knows.
I send them Thursdays. This morning.
There you go. There you go. Okay, and they can obviously grab that off your website if they're interested.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, my website is bonnieflemington.com, or I'm happy to take, if anyone wants to ask more questions, info@bonnieflemington.com is my email. And I'm more than happy to provide a free quick strategy call for someone that's just looking to figure out what's their next step, what they've got going on.
Awesome. Good for me without this turning into a full other hour. Ross, you got anything else you want to add?
No, there's a couple people I want to thank. So Adrienne Lee, she was the lovely woman that referred me to Bonnie Flemington. Adrienne Lee has been such a gift to me this year. I've been battling some issues with my Achilles, with inflammation with my toe. She's osteoporosis. I think I'm saying that properly. She is at Meraki, which is on Spears Road. And I got to do a huge plug for my boy, Chad Ryder, and his amazing wife, Lindsay Boardman, High Rock and Surge. Thank you very much for all that you do. And if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be having this amazing call with Bonnie. So I just wanted to reach out and thank everybody for this. And as well, there's one other guy I want to connect with. I saw him, was it last night? Tuesday night. It was Jason Lee. And Bonnie and I were talking about Jason Lee. Jason Lee is an award-winning naturopath in Oakville, where everybody's from, born and raised from Oakville. Bonnie's in Oakville. So thank you for all of you. The team, I'm lucky to have such a great health team. And Bonnie, we would love to have you on for another episode. Without putting you on the spot, I'm putting you on the spot. Would you join us for another episode in the months ahead?
Absolutely. This was great fun. I know we have a lot more we can talk about for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much again. It was wonderful meeting you. I kind of face-to-face here, almost a little chats over email, but looking forward to the next one as well. And thanks so much, Ross, for making the connection. And until the next episode.